Hello, students. What are you doing today? I hope you are doing well. Today I am going to read My Big Brother, which is a very good story. My big brother was 5 years older than me, but only 3 grades ahead. He had begun his studies at the same age I had, but he didn't like the idea of moving hastily as an important matter like education. He wanted to lay a firm foundation for that great edifice. So he took 2 years to do non 1 year work. Sometimes he even took three. If the foundations were not well made, how could the edifice endure? I was 9, he was 14. He had full right by seniority to supervise and instruct me, and I was expected to accept every order of his law. By nature, he was studious, he was always sitting with a book open, and perhaps to rest his brain, he would sometimes draw pictures of birds and cats and in the margin of his notebook. Occasionally, he would write a name, a word, or a sentence 10 or 20 times. He might copy out a couplet several times in beautiful letter or create new words which made no rhyme or reason. He was in the ninth grade, I was in the sixth. To understand his creature was beyond my powers. I wasn't really very keen about his studying. To pick up a book and sit with it for an hour was a tremendous effort. As soon as I found a chance, I had leave the hostel and play marbles or fly paper aeroplanes like sometimes just meet a chum. Sometimes we had climbed onto the courtyard walls and jumped down. But as soon as I come back into the room and saw my brother's scowling face, I was petrified. His first question would be, "Where were you?" My silence was an acknowledgement of guilt, and my brother's only remedy for this was to greet me with indignant words. If you studying English this way, you will be studying your whole life. Studying English is no laughing matter that anyone who wants to can learn. You have got to wear out your eyes morning and night and use every ounce of energy. And I ask you, how much of a blockhead are you that you can't learn a lesson from looking at me? You have seen how much I grin, no matter how many shows and carnivals there may be. Have you ever seen me going to watch them? Every day there are cricket and hockey matches, but I don't go near them. I keep on studying all the time. And even so, it takes me 2 years or even three for one grade. So, how do you expect to pass when you waste your time playing? If you waste your time, it would be better if you just went home and playing cricket in your heart's content. Why waste our dad's heart and money? Hearing a dressing down like this, I had started to cry. What could I answer? My brother was an expert in the art of giving advice. He had said such sarcastic words that my spirits would collapse and despair. For a little while I had think, why don't I run away from school and go back home? But after an hour or two, the cloud of despair would dissipate and I had resolved to study with all my might. I had drawn up a schedule on the spot. In my timetable, the heading of play was entirely absent. Get up at the crack of dawn, wash hands and face at 6, eat a snack, sit down and study. From 6 to 8 English, 8 to 9 arithmetic, 9 to 9:30 history, then meal time and afterwards after school. A half hour rest, 3:30 when I got back from school. Geography from 4 to 5, grammar from 5 to 6, then a half hour's walk in front of the hostel. 6:30 to 7 English composition, then supper translation from 8 to 9, science from 9 to 10, from 10 to 11 miscellaneous and then go to bed. But it's one thing to draw up a schedule, another to follow it. It began to be neglected from the very first day. The inviting green expanse of the playground, the balmy winds, the exciting stratagems of prisoners barefoot, all draw me mysteriously and irresistibly. As soon as I was there, I forgot everything. The life destroying schedule, the books that strain your eyes, and then my big brother would have an occasion of sermons and scoldings. The yearly exam came around. My brother failed. I passed and I was first in my class. Only 2 years difference was left behind me, and it occurred to me and taunt him. Look at me, I went on playground and having a good time, and I am at the head of my class. But he was so sad and depressed that I felt genuinely sorry for him. But now, I could be a little proud of myself, and indeed my ego expanded. My brother's sway over me was over. I began to take part freely in the games. My spirits were running high. He guessed it. And one day, when I had spent the whole morning playing cricket, he said, I see you have passed, but you are first in your class, and you have got stuck up about it. But my dear brother, even great men live in regret their fright. And who are you compared to them? A man cannot commit innocence. He wants, but he had better not to be proud, nor give him self air. You have just been promoted one grade and your head's turned by it. Understand this. You didn't pass through your own efforts, but just stumble on it by luck. Don't assume that because I failed, I'm stupid and you are smart. When you reach my class, you will have to bite into algebra and geometry and study English history. It's not easy to memorize these kings' names. There were 8 Henry. Do you think it is easy to remember all the things that happen in each Henry's time? If you are right Henry the 8th instead of Henry the 7th, you get a 0. There were dozens of James, dozens of Williams, and scores of Charles. You get dizzy with them. Those poor fellows didn't have names enough to go around. If anybody had asked me, I could have reeled off thousands of names. And as for geometry, well, God help you. If you write ACB instead of ABC, your whole answer is mocking wrong. Nobody ever asks those hard-hearted examiners what's the difference. After all, between ABC and ACB, why are they wasting their time tutoring the students with it? Does it make any difference? If you eat lentils, boiled rice, and bread and boiled rice, stencils and bread, but what do those examiner care? They expect us to learn it words for words. And in the long run, what's the point of learning all this nonsense? If you bring this perpendicular line down in that line, it will be twice the baseline. I ask you, what's the point of that? If it is not twice as long as 4 times as or half as long, what the devil do I care? But you have got to pass, so you have got to memorize all this garbage. When you get into my class, you will find out what's what. Just because you got a first division this time, you are all fucked. So pay attention to what I say. What if I failed? I am still older than you. I have more experience than of the worlds. It was almost time for school. Otherwise, I don't know when this medley of sermon would have ended. Then it was the yearly exams again. Once more I passed and my brother failed. Hadn't done much work, but my brother had just about killed himself with work. He had grown pale. I felt sorry for him. When he heard the result and he broke down and cried. And so I. My pleasure in passing was cut by half. There was only one grade left between my brother and me. The thought crossed my mind that if that he felt just once more I had be at the same level as him, then what grounds would he have for lecturing me? But I violently rejected this unworthy idea. Now my brother had become much gentler towards me. Several times when he found occasion to scold me, he did it without losing his temper. Perhaps he himself was beginning to understand that he is no longer had the right to tell me off. My independence grew. I began to take unfair advantage of his toleration. I found a new pleasure in playing games, spent all my time at the sport. Still, I minded my manners with my brothers and concealed my game for him. One day, far from the hostel, I was running along like mad, trying to grab hold of a balloon. My eyes were on the heaven and that high flying traveler in the sky. A whole army of boys came racing out to welcome him. Nobody was aware who was in front or at the back of him. It was as though every one of them was flying along with that balloon. Suddenly, I collided with my brother, who was probably returning from the market. He grabbed my hand and said angrily, "Aren't you ashamed to be running with these ragamuffins after a 5 rupee balloon? Have you forgotten that you are not in a low grade anymore? I'm sorry to see you have so little sense. You are smart, but what use is it if it destroys your self-respect? You must have assumed I'm just one grade behind my brothers, so now he doesn't have any right to say anything to me. But you are mistaken. I am 5 years older than you, and the difference between us cannot be removed. The experience I have of life you can never catch up with, even if you get an MA and a PhD. Understanding doesn't come from reading books. Our mother never passed any grade, and dad probably never went beyond the fifth. But even if we study the wisdom of the whole world, mother and father would always have the right to explain to us and correct us. Not just because they are our parents, but because they always have more experience of the world. Maybe they don't know what kind of government they have got in America or how many constellations there are. But there are 1,000 things they know more about than you or me. So, brother, don't be so proud of having almost caught up with me and being independent now. I'll see that you don't go off the track. If you don't mind, then showing me his first. I can use this too. I know you don't like hearing all this. I always thoroughly ashamed by this new approach of his. I had truly come to know my own insignificance, and a new respect for my brother was born in my heart. With tears in my eyes, I said, "No, no, what you say is completely true, and you have the right to say." My brother embraced me and said, "I don't forbid you to play. I had liked to too. But what can I do? If I go off my track myself, then how can I watch out for you? That's my responsibility." Just then a balloon that had been cut loose passed over us with a string dangling down. A crowd of boys were chasing after it. My brother is very tall. Leaping up, he caught hold of the string and ran at top speed toward the hostel, and I ran close behind him. Thank you very much. I hope you have enjoyed.